It's that moment when we wake up to Final Fantasy IX news, and it's not good news. Apparently, Final Fantasy IX was being worked on. They got really far along, and then they put it on the back burner, and now it has been canceled. And I want to tell you all about this today, and that's totally worth a sub as you come and you join our party and you level on up with me. Thank you so much for your sub, your like, and your brand new hype. It helps me out a ton. So the first time that we actually learned about this Final Fantasy IX remake was back in 2021, whenever Nvidia had this massive leak. And everything in that leak, the Chrono Cross remaster, the Final Fantasy VII remake, the Final Fantasy Tactics remaster, Kingdom Hearts 4, the new strategy game, which was the Diofield Chronicle, the Tactics Ogre remaster, the Tomb Raider 25th anniversary, and the unannounced card game, which was Voice of Cards of Forsaken Maiden. All of that was true in this leak. So everybody's like, okay, well, all that was true, but what about the last one? Where's the last one? Where's that Final Fantasy IX remake? If everything else is true, that one's gotta be there too. Well, it was there. They were working on it. They got pretty far along with it. And then nothing. And this comes straight from the co-founder and publisher of RPG Site, which is like one of the biggest RPG sites in the entire world. He went on to pretty much talk all about it. This is Alex Donaldson. And basically he was saying, a lot of work was been done. And because of that, it might be picked up in the future, but don't hold your breath. He's also saying that it looks like Square is gonna not focus on remaking Final Fantasy games, the older Final Fantasy games, after this 7 remake trilogy concludes. They would rather work on new Final Fantasy experiences, and I don't know how much I believe that either. So, I would love that, because I'm kind of remaked out, if you know what I mean. There's so many remakes out there. It's nice to get brand new experiences. And even whenever you do get a brand new experience, nowadays, it almost feels like a rehash. Kind of like Octopath Traveler 0. To me, it's a brand new experience, but it was also a rehash of a mobile game. And then there's Final Fantasy Resonance, To me, it will be a brand new experience, which is great. And I'm totally looking forward to it. It's like my most anticipated game of the year. But for a lot of people, they've already played Brave Exvius, so it won't be a new experience to them. So it's always good to get new experiences. But anyway, let's see what he has to say. He says, there was a Final Fantasy IX remake, and it was a single game. They did not split it up. We already know this. We know that Yoshi P went on a tangent, just like, I don't know, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and he was like, if we redid Final Fantasy VI, it'd be like in 5 parts. And that wasn't his way of saying like, yeah, wouldn't it be great to split it up into 5 parts? That'd be wonderful. No, that was his way of saying like, that ain't gonna happen. Like, if we're going to remake 6, we're not gonna do it in a 7 style. We would do it in a smaller style so we could fit it all into one game. So there was a Final Fantasy IX remake, it was on a single game, and it was very far along. Yoshi P even made some vague comments like these, hinting at the fact around the last expansion's Final Fantasy IX tribute content. He was basically, that was back in 2024. Back in 2024, at PAX East, Yoshi P, he released the Final Fantasy Dawn Trail expansion for Final Fantasy XIV, and that had a ton of Final Fantasy IX references in it. And he goes and he quotes, he says, "You may have noticed a lot of Final Fantasy IX references here, but the reason is a secret." Well, I mean, it's obvious that they were going to try to tie that expansion into the Final Fantasy IX remake, but then something happened, it stalled, and, they were never able to release the reason is a secret, you know what I'm saying? So, like, everybody, including me, it was like, yeah, it's just a matter of time, like, duh, like, give me a break. It had Zidane, it had Guard, it had the airship, it had everything. I was like, well, we're just waiting for it, we know it's there, we know it's in the NVIDIA leak, so, yeah. He goes on to say, so it's possible with the right scope, which, just to be clear, is obviously a smaller scope than Final Fantasy VII Remake. However, for various reasons, surely a story for another day, that project stalled out, and it is no longer moving forward, and Yoshi P makes comments like this to manage fan expectations. And of course, the thing is, the path can always change again. This new mobile Dissidia game spent the better part of a year effectively cancelled before being revived, for instance. Okay, so this is good news. I'm actually heard that this new mobile Dissidia game did well. Square Enix released their financial reports very recently, and they were saying that mobile sales are up, console sales are up. Basically, they are back in the black again. They're no longer in the red, they're in the black, and they're making money, which is good. I like it whenever my favorite companies succeed. I like whenever any company succeeds, you know what I mean? I like to see people succeed. I don't wish anybody failure anywhere. I don't even wish Idea Factory failure, you know? I wish everybody success, you know? That's all I'm saying here. So I think it's good that it is successful, and even they went on to say that the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was successful, and Adventures of Elliot, surprisingly, was successful too. They're very happy with the sales of both of them, so that's really good. So if Dissidia was canceled, or at least on ice, they revived it, there's nothing to say that they can't revive 9 again. So nothing is concrete, and in the case of Final Fantasy IX, that work is still there waiting to be revisited. Though I did feel the game was truly dead when illustrations created as potential box art and as key art were just tweeted out for the anniversary. So we saw some really cool illustrations, and apparently those were box art and key art for the game, and then they were just like, oh, this is an anniversary celebration, here you go. So maybe they'll redo that art, I don't know, maybe they'll still use it, who knows. Anyway, it's the same with Yoshida's teasing comments about Hamaguchi on Final Fantasy 17. He doesn't say that unless he knows that's the current plan. That's how he rolls. But also, the thing about these teases is, the plan is the plan until it isn't the plan, because things can change, and Square Enix has, in the last decade, had a very transient development setup where stuff changes often. We know that. We see layoffs, we see that every single day. So we also know that we're going through all sorts of financial issues and problems. So, you know, things change. Maybe their development team got scrapped, we don't know. Their new structure appears to finally be giving stability, though. So maybe they got a new CEO, and the new CEO is doing a back to basics thing, and he is steering the ship, he is rewriting the ship, and he is making really, really good changes. He is saying, hey, we want to do quality over quantity, whereas the last guy was just like, let's just throw everything and see what sticks to the wall. Let's just release 20 games in a 3-month period in 2022. Hopefully they'll do great. Yeah. We all saw what happened there. Everything just went under the radar and nothing sold great. And that was really a shame because a lot of really good games came out during that time. Star Ocean 6, Harvest Stella, Tactics Ogre. There were so many games that came out during this time. And then all of them were just like, because there was just too many. But now he's saying, you know, and he might even just be saying, hey, we're spread too thin, we don't have as many developers, you know, people are being laid off, so why don't we just put Final Fantasy IX on hold, and we'll move some of you to Adventures of Elliot, or we'll move some of you to Dragon Quest remakes, or we'll move some of you to Final Fantasy 7 or 17 or whatever. And then once those are done, we can move you back to Final Fantasy IX. So we don't really know what's going on here, but again, it can be revived. He goes on to say, what this is really all about is that Square Enix has made the decision that after they close out the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, they need to focus on new stories and less on mining the past, which has done okay for them, but ultimately has offered diminishing returns. If they want to grow the franchise, remakes probably aren't it. The thing is, I don't know, again, how much I agree with him there, because we know how long it takes to develop games nowadays. Do you think that Final Fantasy 17 is going to be ready next year, or even the year after that? We know that Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, and to a lesser extent Saga, has been pretty much releasing one game per year recently. And Final Fantasy, last year they released the Tactics remake. This year they're doing Resonance. Next year they're finishing out the 7 trilogy. Well, then what happens after that? Will 17 actually be ready? Or will it be time to throw in another remake? The development cycle for the games are so long, like with Dragon Quest. Dragon Quest 12, what's it been, like 10 years now we're still waiting on that? And they had to stop development halfway through and change the entire trajectory of the game from, dark adult action into lighthearted beyond dreams, and I'm happy about that. Hey, whatever, I think that's great. But in the meantime, you still need to let people know that that franchise exists, or else people are just going to forget about it. So they've been putting out the remakes, and that has been working for them. They've said that these remakes are doing very, very, very well. They said that the HD 2D department and the console sales department has been bolstered by these remakes, by the success of the remakes, especially Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3 remakes. They said that they did really, really, really well. So if they're doing so well, and they're making money, and they're bringing more fans to that particular franchise, and they're easy to do because the stories are already written, why wouldn't they keep on doing it? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, again, I'm here for some new experiences, and I think that'd be great, but there's no way that we're going to get 17, and then the very next year get 18, and then the very next year get 19. Like, that's never going to happen. So in the meantime, they do need to have something coming out, and I think that remakes are a good way to have something come out. And also, I think that the mobile games turning into console games is a really good idea too. I'm really enjoying this myself, so yeah. So now I do want to hear from you. What do you think about this? Do you think that 9 is just canceled and gone and done in the end? Or do you think that it's just been put on ice and on hold? Date the Hate even said that it was put on ice and put on hold. That was a while ago though, but now we have some more concrete proof and evidence. Or do you think that after it's done on ice and on hold, they'll thaw it out and they'll go back to it? That's personally what I think is going to happen. We just gotta wait. We just gotta wait for 7 to come out and maybe even 17 to come out the following year, for then 9 to come out the year after that. So I want to hear from you. What do you think about all this? Let me know down in the comments. And as always, have a good day.